What's up, peers, and welcome to Open Source Everything here on the World Crypto Network, the show where we talk about amazing, liberating software and hardware here in Bitcoin. And today it's going to be a good one because we have joining here us today Jeremy Welch from the Casa company. What are you doing? Hi, how are you?
How's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Well, really nice that you are joining us here today. That is great. So maybe a little bit to your background. How did you end up being interested in Bitcoin, and especially then, how did you start with the Casa company?
Sure. There's a long story and there's a short story, and maybe we'll get into both. But I'll start with the kind of short story. The short story is I studied political philosophy at university, so I was technical growing up, and I worked at ISPs, internet service providers, back in the dial-up days and early cable days, and then I ended up. I studied political philosophy. I went to Duke and studied political philosophy there. I dropped out and I got into startups, right? So I built a few companies, ended up joining a company. We built an advertising system called Invite Media that Google bought. So Google bought us in like 2010, and I spent about a year at Google. And the whole while, again, like I studied political philosophy. I'm reading a ton of stuff, Austrian economics, and a lot of Kant and Nietzsche and a bunch more stuff over there on my shelf. Like you, I'm a big reader, and I was in New York City during the financial crisis. So I was in New York City while the financial towards the tail edge. This was 2009 into 2008, 2009, 2010. And just wild experience to talk to people. I had friends working in the banking sector, and all these questions I had is kind of the ways that I thought that the system worked. People just had their hands up in the air, like, well, we don't know. Well, this doesn't make sense. Well, we're figuring it out. Well, and that's you go through life. I think whether it's going to the doctor or going to talk to your banker or talk to whoever, and people are supposed to have the answers, and there's this kind of thin veneer of everyone just having things figured out, and that's not actually the case. So it was really obvious during this period how bad it was. And we've since returned to some point to where people think they kind of have it under control again, but below the surface is brewing a lot of kind of kicking the can down the road. So anyways, I finished that. I was at Google, stayed there a year, and then I kind of promised myself literally a year to the day that I would not stay because they pay really well and they have all this extra food and all this stuff. And I was like, I'm not going to get fat and happy and whatever. I'm going to learn, and then I'll get out of there. So I got out of there, and I went back and finished up at Duke to my university degree in political philosophy. And when I went back, I was doing a bunch of independent reading. This is 2020 into 2012, 2013, and I found Bitcoin. And it was just like, boom, everything clicked. Okay, like all of these core problems we have now, the incentive systems, and it's crazy to imagine the clarity that could be achieved in kind of global systems. So I'm a big fan of cybernetics and systems theory, and that was kind of the thing that stood out to me about Bitcoin. So I fast forward, I did a bunch of studies on the political philosophy implications of Bitcoin at the time. And then I did a public event. So Matt Carollo, another Bitcoin core contributor, we were just actually doing Coin Scrum last week. So I don't see him that often, but he's an old friend. He went to university like 15 miles away, and we did a Bitcoin event in 2014 together. And so got more people into it, kept learning more and more and more. And then eventually fast forward to starting Casa. And we started Casa, we actually started building a project, a decentralized app. And while building that, we figured out what the stack would look like. So we figured out that the kind of stack was going to evolve very, very quickly. And that to run a truly decentralized app, especially on a phone, was going to be a major problem unless you had some sort of a home node. And so we knew that key management, we actually built our first home node and our first device in 2017. So probably September, October of 2017. And then we realized when we built that key management was a big problem, and that to enable future of computing, you needed both. You needed a good, strong key management layer, and you needed a good device layer. And so, we put out Casa Node. It's been great. We've had a bunch of excitement around it. A lot of other projects have come along too, and we're supportive of everybody in the ecosystem just because we want to shift the entire conversation away from these centralized, massive, Google and Facebook data centers owning all the data systems into something to where all computing is more like Bitcoin, to where you can do, and we drop it down to like two things. One, you need to manage keys, and then two, you need to have some local validation. And local validation is done with some sort of local node, right? That's how it's done with Bitcoin now, and we think that's how it'll be done with more broad computing applications soon. So that is leading up to where we are today, and then we have a bunch of other products we're hoping to push out, and we're excited. It's going to be a fun year.
Oh yes, awesome, very much, and I really agree with your vision here on how the financial ecosystem or toolkit will evolve in the future, right? That how you see it here, it is going to be really all encompassing. It's not going to just be one aspect of it. For example, it's not just going to be a wallet interface, right? That's going to be part of your financial user experience, but you will also have to do some local validation, right? And then some secure key management, and maybe some cool application or hosting services. So there are going to be a bunch of different layers in the stack of Bitcoin in the total user interface, and I do think that we can see something like a Casa Node or other dedicated always-on full node to be this financial battle station, right? From which you reach out and you do all the financial computing that you need to do. I mean, just imagine having a little hardware device that runs Bitcoin Core for you, right? That is your own central bank, but that also has a Lightning Network terminal. So it's also your payment processor for instant cheap payments. And then it's also your BTC Pay service, so you can host your own online shop or whatnot. And then further, maybe also your Wasabi wallet, right? To make sure that you have clean Bitcoin and that your privacy is being upheld. And combine that maybe even with some secure cold storage, like, for example, the cold card, to make sure that your private keys are never really leaked on a hot wallet device. Or some other Lightning Network hardware wallets, which are being worked on.
Yeah, and I would tell you, I mean, you could probably go even further than that, right? Like I think that all applications, all computing, so you're talking about search and social networking and messaging and all these other functions that we currently have, and we think that a lot of that is going to get rebuilt on top of this. So it won't just be the kind of financial architecture that we currently see. There will be broader applications, and that doesn't mean crypto kitties, right? I mean, we're talking like, and we've thought about this. It's local validation doesn't mean that you need to run the entire stack locally, but what it does mean is that you need to be able to validate portions and validate that even if there is a centralized company operating for your benefit, that they're doing so that they're operating, and not potentially hurting you or selling your data or whatever else. So that's how Bitcoin works, right? We have these massive data centers running the miners, and it is getting a little bit more distributed, but it's still oftentimes in a data center. But then all of the nodes are actually validating what is produced there, and we want to see a similar model grow out for all computing.
Awesome. Yes, and I agree. Not everything has to be self-hosted, but it's always good to give the user the choice of being able to self-verify
Right.
all the things that are truly important. And of course, the Bitcoin Core, the Bitcoin daemon infrastructure, is the backbone of all this. And that's the most powerful thing, right? And that's what you have here with the Casa Node, of course, as one of the core attributes here. And we need to make sure that it is very easy and accessible to run a fully validating node, right?
Yep.
And of course, it would be great to keep this on a Raspberry Pi, like you were doing here with the Casa Node, or more developer-friendly thing or developer-focused aspect like the Raspberry Blitz or Raspberry Bolt. But then there would also be the other choice of running neutrino clients, like for example Wasabi, or like the Lightning Labs team has just put out a couple days ago on testnet, that you have the same standard of privacy and anonymity than a Bitcoin full node does, somewhat, right? But you still don't validate the entire Bitcoin blockchain with such a neutrino wallet. But it's very easy and very lightweight to do so. So, Jeremy, where do you think is this going to go? Is everyone going to run his own physical hardware back at base, or is everyone going to run light clients like Neutrino on your phone?
Both. They're going to do both. So what we'll see is like a a balance to where if you're out and about, you may connect to a central server, or you may be running Neutrino, or you may have some other light client. But you're going to come back to common spaces to where you live and you work, and you're going to have more secure computing at those spaces. So there's just no trade-off for having a full node. There really isn't. And where we view this going is you are going to do travel. Most people, even just on their commute from their home to their office, they do some travel, and they might want to send something, or they might want to interact with some application then. But anytime you are in these kind of protected spaces, I mean, we think about it like, it's funny because we already have the kind of setup already kind of works like this. So, our homes are designed around us and are great places for cooking or protecting our valuables or spending time with our family, and they're like designed specifically for that. And then we go into the office and it's like built for work. And both places typically have some level of security. It's not like you leave, for most people, they don't leave their door wide open and unlocked, right? They have doors, they have walls, they have windows, right? So you have these protections around your home, and it doesn't mean that you don't occasionally let things in, but you have this protected place that's for you and that's personal. And when you go out in the world, if you have kids, right, you're not like letting them run around anywhere they want and do anything. It's like within these protected spaces, like a home or a backyard, sure, you might let them do things. And I think we're going to see, like right now, the internet is just this wild place, and it's basically been like colonized by these massive corporations, and everybody exists inside the walls of that. So most people exist inside the walls of Google or Facebook, and now there are all of these rules, and it's like we're living in these, like, it's like nobody has a real home anymore. And that's literally kind of the thinking behind what we're trying to do at Casa, is create a home for computing. Not, it's built on Bitcoin, it's Bitcoin computing at its core, but it's building up from there and trying to create data privacy again, and trying to create ways for people to start creating a home again. Because it's, a lot of people move around now more often with their jobs too. And it's not as easy to just, in decades ago, people would spend 2 or 3 decades or even their entire lifetimes living in one city. But now we want to make it easy so that when you are in your apartment or you're in your kind of private space, you can have those protections, and you can have that both in a kind of physical, real world way, but also in the kind of offline way, or the online way of living in the metaverse, but having that home. So we think that just data privacy generally, data storage, data validation, like all of that will be centered around the home and around these physical spaces of your home and your office and other locations. But it'll be interesting how it plays out. Neutrino has a place because you are traveling and you do want some light clients and you do want some fast interactions, but it will still always be safer to use your own node.
Yes, great points. I agree that running your full node, your own full node, is the peak that you can reach of being your own self-sovereign financial entity. Although it is very cool to have, for example, here the Eclair Wallet, which I've been using for a year or so now. It's awesome because it's a lightweight node. Yes, it's not perfect. Yes, it's spend only for now. They're about to fix that. But it's very convenient to spend only. And it works perfect in conjunction to my Nodl here in the back, right? From which I can then connect remotely to do more of the payments when I'm on my main machine, right? It's more secure, yes. It would be great if I could connect my mobile phone to my own node, but still, if I am running a light client, SPV client, then I would much rather run a Neutrino client, which is much more privacy preserving. And what You just also put out a wallet interface, right? Because the cool thing is with having such a dedicated hardware device is that you can switch the wallet user interfaces, but they still point to the same secrets, to the same private keys, to the same Bitcoin Lightning node. And so, for example, we have the Zap wallet by Jack Mallers, which is really cool and connects over APIs. Then we have the Jewel browser extension, which is also really cool, right? And then which also works over APIs. But on the other hand, there's something more detailed, which would be the Write the Lightning dashboard, which copies most of the Lightning Ellen Cly commands. And now you have just came out with a new browser plugin that does this Lightning or Ellen Cly API mode. So it's not really that you have to share the secrets with the browser extension. So could you please go a bit more into what you've built here and why it's superior and maybe more secure?
Sure. So in most of these external setups or external control mechanisms, you have to export the macaroons. And we view that as not always, even when you're on the network that you're exporting the macaroons on, if someone's sniffing or, there's just a variety of ways. I think we want to be very careful about people getting loose with their macaroon files. So we will have the ability to export that, but it will be, there's lots of flashing lights around, look, this is a serious thing. You need to protect this. You need to be very careful. So we built a directly on our LN API, which we open source. We open source a lot of our code a couple weeks ago. We have a direct connection. So in one click, it's the same connection. You just enter your password, and it's no different really than connecting with the web browser interface, which is the kind of default. And that provides more security because you're connecting directly to the device. You don't have to share any of these files. It's using the existing API calls. Now, the reason to do that, we've been thinking a lot about, and what we're trying to kind of get towards is there will always be these experiences to where you can like bolt on lots of different pieces. We think to get to a massive scale and get a lot more adoption, that we've got to have kind of a coherent ecosystem of like a couple products that just like 2 clicks just work. And we will have ways to plug those into external systems and other products. And we worked with Will over at Jewel before releasing this one. And but again, it comes down to like just having this kind of plug and play, few clicks, all the same stack, all code that our engineers are confident about, so that when we're doing debugging, we can debug on a kind of full stack view, and creating that level of experience to where someone can just, someone again like my mother or my father or a brother or someone who's not as engineering heavy can get going very quickly. But yeah, so it's the idea there is that there are security considerations, and then there's also just kind of this like full stack experience that we're pushing closer and closer towards, and we will support a lot of other pieces integrating into that. But we want this kind of base layer because we think that it will just make adoption easier for a certain class of user.
Yes, awesome. And it's really cool to have a plug and play, easy one-click setup for something as important as your financial sovereignty. Right? That's something really powerful to have such a convenient and easy tool to use that has such economic and just overall impact. That is fantastic. And we need to make it as easy as possible, yet still provide full access and the full power to express for power users that really want to dig down into and give access to everything. So it's going to be like a trade-off, and it's really interesting to see how we can walk this line and how easy and approachable, yet still detailed and in-depth we can make it.
Yeah, we looked a lot at like if you look at like Apple ecosystem versus Android ecosystem, there are a lot of features, there are a lot of things that the Android ecosystem built before it ever got popular and was in and became apparent or became clear that it was going to be a big feature or a big technical advancement, whatever. And oftentimes, like an iPhone screen will often lag, or an iPhone processor will often lag behind, just in terms of total processing power, behind the Android phones and some of the other developments. And we think of it as kind of a similar model where we're thinking about, There are a lot of great teams that are building amazing experiences and great kind of edge of the world pieces. And we always want this level of confidence that as we integrate, that whenever you do come to Casa, you're convinced it will definitely work. We may be a little behind the people that are on the very edge, but it will always work. It's always this kind of full stack integration piece. And that's why we've been very supportive too of everybody else in the ecosystem. Like I think that we're all in this together against these other big players, and we have to work together towards getting more people running nodes and more people managing their money and kind of taking the sovereignty route.
Yes, I agree. And it's good to work together on this and to build this open source, right? And that's why I really appreciate you open sourcing all your backend, or well, most of it, yeah. And that is awesome, because we really need to share this non-scarce information that we can do. That is what will help empower the next generation of entrepreneurs to build upon what we already have established, and then make something even more beautiful and even more delightful. And we can copy from them, and we can grow together. That's what the open source entrepreneurship is all about. And it's beautiful. It's really powerful.
Yep, it's about, and from a security perspective, it's better. From a building perspective, it's better. We did keep so we have basically kind of two parts of Casa. The one piece is around like the node and building devices and even the extension, and that is all open source. But the back kind of key stores and key server we keep private, just because again that's our a lot of that is already open source. So the interfaces for that we have this keymaster system that allows you to set up really simple, really easy to use multisig, right? And under that multi-sig system, you're using Trezors and ledgers and phones and other devices, all of that kind of acting as one makes a really easy multi-sig, really easy to use. Now we've built it as a service because we view that it's for some people, for basically for the types of people that know how to just set up a Glacier protocol, right? This is not for them. This is for people that want a little bit more peace of mind. We do have clients that are really strong engineers. They can do all this themselves, but it takes a lot of time too. And so we've again tried to build something that's really cohesive. It's really easy to use. It's safe. And we've improved on, I think, a lot of things. Like we've removed the need to have seed phrases. So on your devices, you don't have seed phrases because we've made it easy to rotate in devices. But yeah, so we are doing this balance of open sourcing as much as we can right now, and but also some of it will stay closed source for a little while. But over time, we hope to be able to open source everything so that as much as possible is run on the client, validated by the client, and just fully in control. Our mission as a company is maximizing personal sovereignty and safety, and so we're taking a very piecemeal approach to make it fully in the user's control, but it'll take a little while.
Awesome, yes. And I think multisig really is this killer smart contract that Bitcoin has that is really breathtaking. Because usually, for example, with a gold coin, either Alice or Bob is physically controlling and owning this gold coin. It cannot be both individuals at the same time.
Right.
They can simulate shared ownership with some legal contract, right? But that's only written on a piece of paper.
Same thing. So it's remarkable. That's something totally new.
Right, exactly.
Never existed before, right?
Non-simulated shared ownership over a scarce resource is mind-blowing. It really is.
Yeah.
And with Bitcoin, we've made it censorship resistant and unbreakable. That is cool. That is really cool. And so BitGo is doing the 2 out of 3 multisig, right? You, Casa, are doing the 3 out of 5 multisig, as I think.
Yeah, we have 3 out of 5. And the other, Jameson worked at BitGo, and he worked on these institutional. The 2 of 3 is really set up mostly for institutions. And then what we've designed is a 3 of 5, but it's all for the end user. All for small teams sometimes use it too. But in our system, if you actually go back, the screen that you had up before with the circle and the few dots, that's what we call the key shield. That's actually a model of the multisig. Yeah, that's perfect. So if you see the key at the top is the phone. We have an iPhone version is out now. We actually have an Android version built, and we will be announcing that. Everybody keep it a secret, but we do have an Android version. And then you have keys that were at home, office, and potentially a safety deposit box. And then only one of those keys is held by us. So in a BitGo model, BitGo has one key, you have one key, and then there's an outside third party that has another key. And so it is a 2 of 3, but you need to interact with one of these other outside parties to execute something. In our case, it's a 3 of 5, and we only have one key. So the end user has a total of 4 keys, and even if they were to lose one key, they could still recover and do executions on their own, right? So it gives the best, we designed this, it gives the best of both worlds in terms of total independence with some recoverability. Even if there's a fire or there's something else at home and a device gets destroyed, you can still recover yourself. But there is this kind of final emergency of coming to Casa, and we can help you recover in a much bigger case. So it is designed, again, around the individual or a very small team or a small family office, more so than the kind of enterprise setup.
Awesome. Yes, that is great. And what I really appreciate about all this is that you can do multiple setups. You can have both a 4 out of 5 and a 3 out of 5 and a 2 out of 3. For example, right, if you would like to have that. So there are different levels that you can do and diversify in different scripts to lock your UTXOs. Right? Don't diversify in shitcoins. That's stupid. Diversify in the security aspects. And
we tested it. I mean, that's one thing. There are different types of multisig, and we literally tested, I would say, 10 to 12 different schemes to try to figure out what is kind of ideal for an individual that's trying to protect this on their own. And the 3 of 5 is what we eventually worked out. And it's one other thing to be clear as it's multisig, multi-location, multi-device. So we're even spreading you across multiple types of devices. And that's important because there's a thing called a supply chain attack, to where someone could potentially get into the code of a Trezor or of a Ledger or another device. And you're protected by spreading across multiple types of devices.
Yes, that is awesome. And again, right, we can, the beautiful thing with Bitcoin as programmable sound money is that we can build in these smart contracts to take care of our money. And that is really something beautiful. And of course, Bitcoin multisig itself is already fantastic. But so far, we only have it on chain, so to say. And something like the Lightning Network, for example, is already built on a multi-signature, right? Payment channels are a 2 out of 2 multi-signature with some additional scripts. But what I am really interested in, and what I decided to write my bachelor thesis on, is how we can have this non-simulated shared ownership of Bitcoin in a multi-signature in the Lightning Network. So I think there are different approaches to do this, either to change the script of the payment channel on the base blockchain, or to change on a higher level the kind of access right to the node itself on different levels, or maybe something with revocation secrets and some routing trickery. Have you thought about doing something like this with Casa, and what have you come up with?
Yeah, I mean, we've evaluated. We think that we will get to a point to where you have multi-sig across a wider array of applications. So you will have some of these wallets that'll just continue to be single sig. Any wallet to where you're doing bigger staking or you're doing bigger, anything that's and Lightning routing will end up benefiting from multi-sig. Any bigger balances. So I think that we will see this. How it's actually implemented, the easiest jump is to do exactly what you were talking about extending that from a 2 of 2 to some other kind of multi-sig. And it's really going to be a function of one, of kind of mapping out the threat model around attackers and who would be a potential attacker or what the different sharing possibilities could be, and that's one interesting route to go down as you're studying more of this. Another one is there could be something at a higher level actually in Lightning, but that is I'm not as familiar direct with the Lightning code, and that would require a lot more collaboration directly with Lightning Labs or one of these other projects that's actually building a Lightning implementation.
Yes, awesome. And I think, right, that because we now on the second layer can build out on many different aspects, we can have some cool opportunities here. And nevertheless, even I think, especially on the second layer, we need to have these multi-sig schemes because, in my opinion, most of the traffic will not happen on the blockchain, right? It's not as efficient enough, and I want to have multi-sig shared ownership even when I am pay per streaming, right, pay per API call or something. Then I still want to have the opportunity of sharing the ownership and the access and control rights to
Right.
Bitcoin.
Right. Yeah. 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 I mean, I think that's valid. I think if you're just talking about rights between you and the provider, or you or the person that you're interacting with, that's one thing. But there'll be a lot more applications of this, and yeah, it's going to be. I don't know if you saw, Jack was already talking about just the other day on the Stephen Levira podcast about how he's saying with Square, it's not a question of if but when they implement Lightning. To get any large scale applicate or any large scale adoption amongst, say, the Square card readers or something, we're going to need a lot more flexibility in payment structure and in control structure. So it's still early days. This is going to be I think a fun year already, and it's going to be a fun decade because there's just a lot of, it feels exciting again. I feel like we went through a lull. I went through a couple of the internet waves, and like super early before all the crazy internet, like Facebook and Google, and then early around the Google times, I was in, I guess it was in university and high school, and Facebook, and now I feel like I feel like things died down in the internet space, and now they're starting to get crazy again, right? So there's going to be a lot of new companies, a lot of new projects, a lot of really cool stuff, and so I think it's awesome that you're working on this, and excited to collaborate and see how we can help too.
Awesome, yes, and again, because multisig is so fundamental, I think this is of tremendous value to many individuals here in this ecosystem. It's not just people who want to take care of their own money, right, and secure it, especially on a hot wallet like a Lightning node, right? Then of course multisig is really easy to make sure that you reduce some of the risks of publicly calling out what your wallet balance is and everything. So it's always good to have some additional layers of complexity that will make it more difficult for an attacker to try to steal your money. And I think multisig is really cool for this. So yeah, Jeremy, we've talked quite a lot about why you build Casa and why it's so important, and not just the key management as we've just finished, but also how this node ecosystem might look in the future of having a base node to which you then connect with all your different applications. So maybe to summarize, is there anything that you like to focus on, or anything additional that you would like to bring up?
No, just I think a lot of your audience is already kind of aligned with how we think that we tell a lot of people that we need to get a key manager in every pocket. So that's commonly that's your wallet, but we need to be more explicit about actually managing keys. So go out and get yourself a Trezor or a Ledger or something else, and make sure that you're interacting with keys, and everybody get a node, right? It doesn't matter, kind of pick your poison in terms of which one you want to buy and which project, but definitely get one and start experimenting. And Pierre has a great, just easy Lightning launcher on an existing desktop computer. But yeah, start using nodes, use keys, and start experimenting. And then I think that for any developers out there, feel free to reach out to us, reach out to any of these other companies, and we need more projects, we need more games. There are new projects coming out all the time, but it's the early days, and there's going to be some really cool stuff. There's actually a few coming out like in the next week or so that we've heard about, but it's an exciting time again. So reach out to us, let us know how we can help.
Yes, awesome. Communicate, peers. Be active in this community. It's a joy to behold. And when you're active and when you're connecting to all these meat space, real life individuals, you are actually going to grow yourself, not just by teaching others, but by learning from how they react and what they can bring to the table. So absolutely, be active, right? And control your own keys, not just your Bitcoin keys, right? Also your YubiKey GPG keys, right?
That's right.
So make sure that you have a full round communication security as well. So again, like stuff like GPG or like YubiKeys or two-factor authentication is essential. Control your own keys means you control your own digital identity and life, and that it has to be something which you take responsibility over, and that includes then also something like running your own node. It doesn't have to be a dedicated always-on device, right? It can be on your laptop. It can be on a 7-year-old laptop, probably more secure on that old hardware before all the backdoors were being implemented. But of course, having something like a Raspberry Pi, like this one right here, which was my first dedicated always-on node, or something like the Nodl, or the Casa Node, or the Raspberry Blitz, or Bitseed, or Samurai's Dojo, or Lightning in a Box. There are so many. Choose one of them, but do it. Like really be active. It is going to be a joy. You're going to learn a lot, and that's good. Always be growing, always be learning.
That's it.
And go ahead.
No, that's it. That's it. That's perfect. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Awesome. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun year. We've got a lot ahead for the entire community, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, yes. 2018 was so wild. We have James in the chat saying that the first half of 2018 was great, but the second sucked for him. Well, that's a shame. But I mean, yes, price went down and it's horrible and all, but it's just price. And the tech that we have built and the tools that we have created out of nothing by the sheer power of our human will and ingenuity is breathtaking and so beautiful. And Bitcoin has grown tremendously in so many different aspects. And I don't know how we can keep this up. It's going to be a wild ride for sure.
Yeah, I think it's going to get faster. I think it's going to get crazier. So it's good.
Please, no.
Hold on, huddle on, right?
I mean, for example, just today, the Bitcoin OpTech newsletter dropped. So version or number 33, that's always a joy to behold, right?
Yep.
Then all of a sudden, Wasabi drops a full update. Oh, and by the way, I really should focus this. With Wasabi now, with the latest version of version 1.1.1, you can easily change this file here. This file in the config.json file, and then change this little IP here of mainnet Bitcoin core host from 127 to your external node, which this right here is my Nodl, but it could be your Casa node as well. And this is automatically done if you run the Wasabi wallet and the Bitcoin Core client on the same hardware, like the same laptop or computer. But if you have a node like Nodl or like Casa that is connected over the network, this is how you can run the Wasabi, Xiaomi, and CoinJoin wallet connected over your full node on the back end. And that's going to increase with future updates and coverage and doability here. But that's awesome. So this little tip here released today. And of course, now here on the World Crypto Network, also this conversation with Jeremy. That's awesome. So crazy day. And let's see what the next couple blocks will bring for us. Piers, thank you for joining.
I love it. What the next couple blocks will bring. I mean, that's actually right. It's that phrasing is like, I think that's an understated phrasing. What the next couple blocks will bring. There's a lot packaged in that. I don't know how much you've expanded on Newtonian time and like how our time systems are inadequate, but maybe that's another conversation for another time.
Oh, very interesting. Yes, we should absolutely talk about this. I've been a huge advocate for switching to block time. I hate the time zone system. We have found something to have irresputable consensus on something that is even with time. Yes, it's a 10-minute interval, and yes, it's kind of chaotic and changing and random, but so is life. So when we say we're going to have a 7-block conversation, that's going to be roughly an hour. Might be a bit more, might be a bit less.
But under Satoshi's blessing, whatever comes, whatever may come, right? Whatever time that aligns with. Awesome.
Okay, Jeremy.
Max, this has been great.
Yes, it was. And again, you're welcome anytime you're back to the World Crypto Network. And Piers, see you on the next show. Bye-bye.